Welcome to Leadership Development News, Profiles and Practices of Top Performers. I'm Dr. Ray Nadler. Dr. Kathy Greenberg and I have been doing our show since 2008. And so we always want to bring key people who will help you in your own development, will help if you're leading a team. What are the tips? What are the tools? What are the few things that you could do a little different or a little more or a little less that's going to allow you to be a top 10% performer? And we always talk about that. This top 10% performer, it's a tipping point. Are you in the top 10%? Can you get your people in the top 10%? That is a multiplier. And often the way to do that is with these emotional intelligence competencies that Kathy and I promote. We're both certified in the emotional quotient inventory, certify other people. We both are on a few different coaching panels, training people to be coaches. And so emotional intelligence, why do we like it? There's a ton of research about it. It's allowing you to be one in the top 10%. And then our focus is what are the tools? What are the tips, allowing you to be in the top 10%? So, Kath, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks, Relly. I have barking dogs in the background, so I had my audio off there for a couple minutes. And it is so good to see everybody today. This whole concept of people on podcasts, right, having to see each other is it's old to most people. But to be honest with you, having been in this industry, what now, for over 20 years, really? We started on radio
Right.
when all you had was your voice. So it is a unique experience
Yeah.
for us. But I want to make sure the audience knows that we're going into our 20th year on this show, and we're so proud that we have been named the #1 leadership development podcast by FeedSpot, and we're continually ranked among the top in many, many areas of business and leadership, and we couldn't be happier because we have done absolutely nothing except show up with great guests and quality content to
True,
make
true.
that possible. I know, people, a lot of people, and it's fine. I mean, I certainly respect people's #1 monikers. A lot of people, unfortunately, pay for that. And I just want to be clear with everybody, that's not what this #1 ranking is about. We weren't voted in by our colleagues around the world. This was really a separate organization that collected the information. And one day, Relly and I looked at online data and said, where'd that come from?
We're definitely very surprised. I think Kathy, I think, like you said, it's our content and longevity. And then, for our audience, and I'm highlighting Dr. Ed Nottingham here because this is only the second week we're live streaming on YouTube. Kathy, as you said, we've always been on audio, but now we got the visual. And so that's why you look so nice and ready for this because of the
Oh, is
visual.
that what it is? Once in a while, yeah, I throw on a little makeup. It's been an interesting week. I spent last week being interviewed for a Showtime special that's coming up in September on suicide prevention. And never did I think that the work that we do on raising awareness on emotional intelligence across industries would make a difference in the lives of people. But the data shows globally that we are in a human energy crisis. 622,000 people in 128 countries, researched by 6seconds.com shows that doesn't matter what industry you're in, what country you're in, we are dealing with a human energy crisis. And I think today's guest is really going to bring to light how leaders can help all of their organizations focus on what's most important to them, how they can leverage their own growth, their own energy, the use and application of AI in a way that's meaningful and that relates to people through the possibility of true engagement. So I'm really excited today to have our guest. And Bill, if I pronounce your name wrong, let me know. Is it Canady?
You nailed it in one, Kathy.
Oh,
Outstanding.
perfect. Perfect. I am the worst at pronouncing things. It is just something I usually ask my guest in advance, but I feel like this is going to be such a great show, Bill. So Bill Canady is the chairman of OTC Industrial Technologies and the CEO of Arrowhead Engineered Products, also known as AEP. As a leadership expert with more than 30 years of experience as a global business executive, he specializes in driving organizational growth, controlling costs, and increasing profitability. What a beautiful combination. During his time with OTC, revenue has grown by more than 43% and earnings well over 80%. OTC now has 1 billion in sales and 1,900 employees growing daily at AEP. And Canady leads more than 3,600 employees and has 1.5 billion in sales. Man, would I love to be in your company. Throughout his career, Bill has led several organizations through their most disruptive challenges and opportunities, often in very complicated regulatory, investor, and media environments. Taking the tools and techniques that he's developed growing these multi-billion-dollar companies, he's created the PGOS, the Profitable Growth Operating System, and he set out to help owners and operators around the world profitably grow their companies, and I would assume their people. Bill graduated summa cum laude from Elmhurst University with a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration, and he received his MBA from the University of Chicago Booth School of Business. He's a veteran of the United States Navy, one of my favorite organizations. For more information about Bill, you can go to billcanady.com or bill@billcanady.com. That's Canady. And Bill, we're so happy to have you. Welcome to the show.
Oh, it's great to be here. You're quite the hype person. I think if this doesn't work out your day job here, just call me. You're hired.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
All right, Bill. So really glad to have you. And we're going to pick your brain. We have some questions that we want to ask you. And then we always kind of start off trying to get a little background about your major influences. So kind of who are some of the key people that kind of brought you to where you are today?
Yeah, I like Kathy, have a little dog running around here. So every once in a while you may hear it barking. So her name's Penny, and we love her to death, but she's got, for such a little dog, such a loud bark. So yeah, honestly, I'm here where I'm at today because people took chances on me, and I took a chance on myself, and it's what's made all the difference. Is those mentors, those people around you that give you that opportunity to go out and do something special, and so it absolutely starts with my parents. Just a wonderful support network there. My mom, it's funny, my mom and my dad, my mom got married. She was 15 years old, if you can believe that, right? This is a whole
Wow.
different time in the deep South, right? But that woman had a strength of iron and held our family together, and because of everything she did, it really made me who I am today. So she never graduated high school. She went back and got her GED, but her mission in life was to break her family out of the cycle of poverty that we had all grown up. I grew up in a double-wide trailer at the dead end of a dirt road in eastern North Carolina. And so when the time came, she could have made a choice. She could have said, look, you need to stay because that's what people did there because you got to help, right? Instead, she put me in her car and she drove me to the local recruiting office, and I joined the United States Navy, as Kathy says, one of the best things I ever did. But that one simple gift she gave me, putting her mission in life over fairness, is what set me on that path, and that gave me the chance to lead, to grow, and to serve, and become who I am today.
I'm just sitting here thinking, Relly was asking if we knew each other before we jumped on the air, and I'm thinking, we could be related. My mother was from the mountains of West Virginia, coal miner's daughter kind of thing, and she got married when she was 15 and also had a mission, but unfortunately she didn't have the education. So she went off and became a burlesque dancer, but She was very good at what she did, and I'll have to tell you, they can be very influential on us.
It's a
So
big deal what mom
yeah,
does, isn't it?
yeah,
My
definitely.
mom cut hair. She was a beautician or
Oh,
fancy cosmetologist. When we were talking to fancy people, we told her he was a cosmetologist. My dad was a handyman, great guy. My mom cut hair. So that's how we
Yeah, we
did.
used to say my mother was a stripper, except when it was in a fancy environment, we'd say she was a burlesque dancer.
That's right. You gotta bring it up a little bit. You can't
Yeah,
let
switch it
everybody know
up.
the secrets. So.
Switch it up.
That's right. But we all come from somewhere. And if you change any one of that, you change your mom, get rid of those feathers, my mom not cutting hair, we probably wouldn't be sitting here today,
right.
right?
I
All of
agree.
that equals to who we are. So I'm grateful for it.
That's beautiful. And Kat, I didn't know your mom was also married at 15, and for Bill. So those are great stories and just kind of the influences. So are you ready to, we're going from that into our leadership.
I can't wait to
Leadership,
see where you go next, Rally.
essential,
That's an easy
essential.
segue.
Yeah, essential leadership skills for success. That's where we're going.
Yeah. So basically, in a lot of this, Bill, you or your people kind of put together the questions and we massage them and stuff. But what I really like is just kind of looking back from your experience. What are the three kinds of leaders that are essential for success? Given we're talking about leadership development on our show. So what have you found?
You know, that's such a great question. It's funny. At first I'll give you just a little story. So the way you do things, right? You go out and you try, and so my first job I got where I was like the guy, the person in charge. I did really well, and so I went, and the reward for doing good work is you get more work to do. So I got another group to go lead, and I just about killed that second group because I in the second group I tried to do exactly what I had did in the first group, and so I guess I was a hammer and everything was looking like a nail, and of course that just doesn't work. So I really got lucky the first time around that my skill set or the timing or whatever, maybe they're just desperate, but it worked, right? And so what you start learning is there's a couple of traits that you need. So first is you have to treat everybody with dignity and respect, right? You don't know what people are going through. It's been this way forever, but we've lived through kind of the most amazing generational change here in the last few years. I think Kathy talked about it earlier. We're all working behind screens now and things like that, and so treating people with dignity and respect because you don't understand. That's first. Second one is you got to be a continuous learner. You got to have that flexibility, which is almost what killed me in my second job, right? I thought I knew the answers,
Hmm.
which was just not true. And then the third piece is you actually have to get something done. I have worked with so many people. As we talked earlier, I grew up in the South, off the coast of North Carolina. We used to have this word called fixing. We were fixing to do a lot of things, right? You got to quit fixing. You got to start doing. Because once you do that, you can start iterating really quickly. So putting it out there, don't let progress over perfection. Be a continuous, flexible learner so you understand what's happening, and treat the people around you as if they're winners and they want to be on this team. It makes a huge difference with those three criteria. Looking at a leader.
I'm just making some notes here, but I think people forget that in today's distributed environment, right, where people are virtual more often than not, it's also important as we treat people with respect to recognize that they too need to gather. And I know you're going to talk about a couple of principles that you like to use in your 4-step system. But one of the things I just want to emphasize as we're talking about three of these kind of leadership concepts is the capacity to flex on how you want to spend money, right? You were talking about how you saw everything as a nail, so you became the hammer, right? And I remember those days early in our careers coming from consulting, big six like Accenture and Anderson Consulting, where I grew up. And I think about the fact that giving leaders a budget expressly so that their people can find the best ways to connect is so important in today's very diverse environment. And I'm not talking about human diversity, right? The D the DEI stuff. I'm talking about people's, as you said, their learning, their growth. I'm hearing a lot of leaders now are giving their people a budget to meet every quarter in a way that is meaningful to them. Have you heard about that?
I have, and I think I think you have to do it that way. So you talked a little bit about diversity. It's such a hot topic today, but I'm a huge believer in diversity. Forget how people look and all that. You need diversity of thought. You need people who approach things differently because if we're all in the same room, we all agreed, and someone is useless, right? We need someone who's going to bring in some idea that we hadn't thought of. And you alluded a little bit to the system I use. The first two steps are really, really critical. So, as the leader, let's say you're the CEO, you're whatever your title, but you're the leader in this situation. You set the goal, whatever the goal is. Like in Rayleigh's picture, there's got mountains behind him, and the goal is to get to the top of that mountain. I've identified the mountain. I know where I want to go. The team needs to own how they're going to get to that mountain, right? Because they're on the point of contact. They know how they're going to get there. And as a leader, you can't be everyone. So if you'll teach your tools, like how you do things, and your culture, when you do things and why you do things, you can set people free and they will find their path to that mountain. And things like budgets, like, look, I'm not sure what you're going to do, but you got this amount of money, $1, $1 million, doesn't matter, whatever's appropriate. You need to get yourself from here, from spot A to spot B. I'm going to hold you accountable to do it. Now, the key to this is if I tell you how to do it, it's going to fail. I assure you it will fail because things change. Plans are useless, but the art of planning is critical. As Eisenhower said, turn them loose with that budget, with those tool sets, and they'll surprise you. In fact, they'll probably delight you.
So we're following up on some of this, and so I'm just clarifying your 4 steps. So you went through the first two, set the goal, and then have the team own it.
That's right. Build the strategy. They'll build the strategy. Fourth step or third step, excuse me, I'm math hard. The third step is organize yourself around the strategy. This is where most companies fail. They'll say, okay, our strategy is go to that mythical hill we talked about, but they actually won't put people on it or they won't put their best people on it. So everybody still has their day job. Plus, they got this new job. There's no more hours in a day, no more days in a week.
Right.
You must reorganize yourself or organize yourself to fully achieve the goal. And then the fourth step then is go take the actions, like lay out the plan, take the steps, begin. It's just like if you're planning a trip, right? You're going to need to actually some point drive to the airport.
So let me just do a follow up here.
Well,
So
I was going to say, can we do that right after the break?
okay, good.
Yeah, I'm going to keep us organized because as
Thank
Bill
God
said,
someone's in charge.
math is hard.
That's hard.
She's the PI, professional interrupter. All right, good. So yeah, we'll come back because I have a question about your 4 steps.
Yeah, no worries. I'm sure the audience does too. So I'm keeping my day job. I'm going to make sure I'm the PI. We'll be right back. You're listening to Leadership Development News.
Welcome back to Leadership Development News, Profiles and Practices of Top Performers. We're talking with Bill Canady. You can get more information from him at his website, Bill, B-I-L-L, Canady, K-A-N-A-D-Y.com, like Canada, Canady. And we're asked him before, he had his 4 steps of setting a goal, get the team to own the goal, organize around the strategy, take some actions, and some of the things as far as metrics. I'm going to ask them about the accountability. I think we all know about the 80-20 rule. We know about KPIs. But so, Bill, when you talk about accountability, I think that's where leaders and organizations have the most hardest thing. Like if Kathy and I are in organization all the time. If I would say, here's the 2 things that every organization needs help on: accountability, communication. I mean, that's just across the board. So what have you found, around accountability?
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. And when you dig into it, so as the leader, you set that goal, whatever the goal is, and it works itself through the organization all the way down to action. You close that loop. So if you visualize a circle in your mind, you have to close it. And we close that in the tool set, for those of you lean practitioners out there, it's called policy deployment, right? So policy deployment's been around forever off of it. But if you just set aside all the fancy terms, what you have to have is you take those KPIs that we were just talking about, and you meet on those regularly. So at a minimum, as the leader, you're going to have a monthly meeting. We call that a monthly business review, or an MBR. And that business review is designed to look at those KPIs, those key performance indicators, and say, how are we doing? And generally, you'll have it as either a green, we're on track. We call that script A. That means you don't have to talk about it. We're on track. Life is good. Keep going. Or we'll have a red. Now, a lot of companies like to have yellow, which means they're within 5%. I always hate the yellow because it gets into a discussion. You're either on track or you're off track. You may be on track knowing you're going to get off track. You should cover that as well. So you get in your meeting, you say, what did we agree to? You look at that KPI, we agreed that we were going to be at this point. If you're on track, congratulations, keep going. If you're off track, the thing you want to do, and we talked earlier about 80-20 Pareto's principles, there's a whole bunch of it's rarely one thing that happens. It's not like a meteor came out of the sky and got us. It's really a bunch of things. We're going to pick out the critical few of those, right? Those 20%, those 1-2 items that are getting us, and we're going to talk about those, because we're going to have to fix that before we do anything else, right? So we pick that big item, we talk about it, and then we use, and boy, we're really getting into some terms here now, the 5 whys. Why did this happen? Why did that? And they'll say, well, it happened for this. And go, well, that's really interesting. Why did that happen? And you keep getting it down till we get to what we call the root cause, like the root of the tree. This is what really happened. Now go fix that, because it's like, let's say you injure yourself and you're bleeding. It's a terrible thing to happen, but you're bleeding. It's on your hand, but the injury is up somewhere on your arm. Wiping the blood off your hands is going to do nothing. You need to patch the wound. That's getting to the root of it. So our tools, these policy deployment tools, or whatever tools you like out there, will get us back to where the injury happened, and we will find a way to get through that. And there's a bunch of tools there we could go into. As the CEO, that's the most important thing you could do, is get to the root cause and get it solved so we can keep going. And the way that you do it is you simply ask questions, ask simple questions, not complex questions, ask on it, follow up on it. The second thing you do as a CEO is you control the capital budget. Do not spend the money until you're ready. I have bought more machines that we gave name to because they hung around because we weren't ready for them, right? So make sure you're controlling capital where you spend your money. Second piece is make sure people are dealing with the actual problems.
So let me ask you a quick question here before we get into some things like the zero up experiment and so forth. When working in big companies where we've all worked, at one point I managed close to 5,000 people on 3 continents when I was with Accenture. When I think of the 5 whys, sometimes it's a bunch of who's and not what's that are the issue. And back in my day, we did a lot of business outsourcing. And I know a lot of companies have regretted that in the end, even though it's been profitable, what do you tell people when it's a who and not a what that they have to fix?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, right? There's a whole lot in everything you said there. So typically, first set the people aside. And generally, when things aren't working, it's one of three things. Either the process does not exist, we are not following the process, or the process is broken. So let's identify what's going on there. The second piece to that is the person who's running the process may not be capable of running the process, right? Which is, and there's a whole bunch of reasons. Maybe they don't want to run it. Maybe they haven't been trained. There's all sorts of things. But for whatever it is, and whatever it is, you may either have a person issue or you may have a process issue. Now, I will assure you, in my 30 years of doing it, it's rare for a person to come up and go and say, it's me, I'm the problem. Most of the time, they're going to point to something that is not working right. The safety guard is broken. The light beam where the tool comes through is not triggering every time, so we don't know that it's fitting dimensions. All these types of things are happening. A lot of times it is that. The second biggest issue is we don't train our people on how to do it, right? I can't tell you the number of times we have I bought a company. We had a factory in Wisconsin. They made a flapper valve. And they were the best in the industry. They're called Erie valves because years and years ago. So we promptly decided, because we're geniuses and we really are good at everything we do, let's shut that factory down and move it to Mexico because it's going to be a whole bunch cheaper, right? So we did that over the course of a year. So again, we make those parts to spec. I mean, they're perfect. Unfortunately, none of them work, not a one, because in that factory, they had long since changed how they were making them, but nobody had updated the drawings. And in our infinite wisdom, we didn't bring any of those people with us. We just shipped the drawings down to make it. So we had lost sight of it. So, you could have fired everyone in Mexico, including the entire state, and it wouldn't have fixed the problem. The problem was our process was broken, right? The way we were doing it wasn't done right. And we had to go back, and it was a very expensive lesson on it. Most of the time, it's not something pure. It's a combination of lack of training, lack of documented process. I find most people want to win. Most people want to be on a winning team. They want to be praised. They want to get raises. They want to make bonuses. So you can generally count on that. Not always, but generally you can count on that. If you're not sure, just walk through your factory. If nobody looks at you and says hi, they're kind of mad at you. You've probably done something wrong. So fix that up. Then once you've got people who want to win, make sure they're trained on how to do it. But look at that documentation. Are you having daily stand-up meetings? Are you doing your safety briefing? Are you doing all, if you're not doing all these things, I'll assure you the only thing that's keeping that factory going is tribal knowledge. They have figured it out on their own. And the problem is every day the tribe leaves the building. And you have to be careful with that stuff. So get it documented, figure it out. You'll be fine. But be surprised if it's one thing.
So in that, Bill, I love it. There's a lot of different things that you kind of highlighted. I'm just going to echo a couple of them. One is, I think, just around accountability is these stand-up meetings. I don't know how many times I've introduced that to teams. It's effective, but how many organizations don't do that? I mean, so if you're not having the right conversations, whether it's a stand-up or in your one-on-ones, and Gallup tells us you got to have minimum a 15-minute one-on-one meeting minimum a week. I mean, that's where all the magic happens.
That's
in
right.
those meetings. So maybe just kind of highlight that, like, so how would you start one of your one-on-one meetings?
Well, it depends if you're doing it in the factory floor or if you're doing it in the carpet. We always think concrete and carpet's an easy way. People typically understand it. So in the factory floor, we're going to have if you take over a factory, you buy a company or you're running it, the biggest impact you can make, the fastest one, is have a daily stand-up meeting. Typically, it's 15 minutes.
Right.
You said, in fact, we generally will take the clocks, we'll put analog clocks in and color in the 15-minute meeting so they know that we wanted to, depends on the shift start, right? 9:15, or if you're starting at 6 a.m., depends on factories and temperatures and all sorts of things. But you have it every day. At that meeting, there's going to be a board there. That board, some people call them sight boards or glass walls, whatever, but it'll have safety, quality, delivery, cost, maybe people, a few of those things that it'll have on there. Someone needs to talk about every one of those. And on that, you're going to write on that paper, someone's going to show up and say, well, guess what? We missed our shipment. because, and they'll go through all the reasons, and it turns out you're missing a nut, right? There's some golden thread that has to be written down on that sheet. So the next shift coming in knows that's happening. Plus, tomorrow when we get back, we actually want that taken care of. And the leadership, at a minimum, should walk through that factory every day and read those boards so they know what's happening and they can take care of it, right? Because we as a society, not just in America, but around the world, I've done it all over the globe, we're visual people, right? We like seeing things, we like hearing things. Writing it down is an important part, but it's only one part of it. So that's how you do your daily stand-ups. That's how you write. And I've really simplified it, but it's not very complex. It's the biggest impact you'll have on a factory because the person running that machine, packing that box, whatever, they know what's going wrong. And if you'll just listen to them, they'll tell you. And it's the job of that supervisor to fix that thing before it gets to the next shift, and it keeps going on and on, right? Now, if you're in the corporate side, we generally don't have that type of thing. We've done stand-up meetings inside of offices, things like it's not as effective because the way paperwork flows through an office, right? It is effective from a group standpoint. We can talk about that. But as a leader, you want to have one-on-ones. And those meetings are typically, this is where I think people go wrong with it. You'll come in and you feel like my employees here, thank God I've got so much to share. It's really their meeting. You really want them telling you what's happening because you want to flip the pyramid upside down. Instead of you being at the top, you really want to have kind of a servant mentality of like, what can I do to unclog this thing so it keeps going? So your job, among many things, is to make the machine work better. For sure, they'll know what's going on better than you will. Your job is to fix that.
So let me jump in here because I know that a lot of the processes that you're talking about, the four-step system, the things that we need to do in the factory setting versus, as you're saying, the tribal knowledge that needs to be posted so that the documented changes or upcoming fixes or things that people are counting on for their milestones and their KPIs and their goals are being focused on. We spend a lot of time, I say we collectively, those of us in the world of managing people and human beings. Awareness is so important. And in the world of emotional intelligence, without giving people permission to call out a problem, whether it's an individual or a process or a documentation or anything else, seems to be, in many instances, the root cause of a lot of things that could be simplified if we just gave people the opportunity to learn about themselves and to become aware of how they are making decisions with their emotions. And we call that being smart with our emotions. How, in your experience as a CEO, how have you created that psychological safety so that people can speak about these issues without fear?
It's so interesting. You need a two-pronged system. You need a push and a pull system. So you're on one side, you have to create a safe environment. And there's nothing magical you can do on that. It's not like you need to go put up a bunch of posters and say, don't stick your hand in a machine. I mean, you can do that, and we do it all the time. But it's how you treat people. So if someone comes in your office and tells you something you don't like, and believe me, if it's reached you, it's generally not, what are we having for lunch today? It's a problem. And it's going, you have to deal with that. If you pop off or you blame the mess or what, they're going to quit coming, right? So you have to have this safe environment where people can say anything. Now, look, you come in, you tell me you're lying and cheating and stealing, we're going to deal with that. But we're not going to, we're not going to punish you for it but we're going to deal with the ethical issues of it. So it starts with you. How are you treating people? Are people telling you things? And you can go back in, I can go into a company, I can walk around with a leadership team, and I can tell by walking around just if people like them or not. You can't fake it, right? You will just see it, right? You see, do they know their names? Are they asking them questions? Do they have that environment people want to be a part of? The second thing you need is you do need to go back to KPIs, and you do need to have mechanisms that report things. Everything from safety violations. And I don't mean to make it all negative, but you need hotlines for people who are uncomfortable with telling something going on. You need to make sure from a safety standpoint. So you want to both demonstrate it in every way, and you also want to allow different mechanisms. And then you want to, just like at stand-up meeting every day, you start with the people. You start with safety, right? So it's what we do, it's what we say. That's what people are going to do it. But by far, the most killing thing of a culture is a boss who treats people like dirt, right? And then accuses them of making it worse and all that. We've all seen that. It's a terrible culture, right? Starts with the boss. How they work is how the other one's going to work.
That's beautiful. And I think Kathy and I, agree wholeheartedly. We work with the bosses typically, and sometimes it's like basic stuff that your mom taught and you went to kindergarten, about treating people with respect and listen, and it's just the basic. Um, both Kathy and I, we like a lot of research. One of the interesting pieces is as someone goes further up in the organization, it mutes their empathy because I got all the answers. Why do I need all these people? You work for me here, and that whole expertise drift. I'm an expert in everything, and that mutes the empathy. And so I think one of the things that we do want to hear from you, because you guys, I like what you're saying already. You got a lot of systems and your key points about stuff, so it makes it easy to kind of hang on to. But we're going to go to a break in a moment or two. But really, when you got someone who is a low performer. And so, what are some of the techniques? Because it does go back to the conversation, it goes back to that psychological safety. How do you bring a low performer to be a top performer or a better performer?
You want to do that now? Or you want to go to break? Because I saw it flash up.
Yeah, I think we're going to go to break, and then
All right.
we'll come back. We'll
It'll
have
be
the
like bated breath for everyone.
exactly. We got the audience hanging on that because they got low performers, and we want to hear from Bill Canady. What do you do?
Prepare yourself. All right.
Okay.
Welcome back to Leadership Development News. We're having an engaging conversation with the CEO of, I'm just going to say, of how to get it right. I mean, you're speaking to all industries, all people who are in an organization of some kind, whether they're the CEO or the team leader. You know, it's so important for people to understand. And I'd like everybody to visit your website at billcanady.com. That's BILLCANADY.com, or they can reach out to you individually, which is very generous of you, Bill. Bill at billcanady.com, BILLCANADY. So when we went to break, we were talking about what to do with some of these low performers who may not recognize that they are, in fact, low performers. They're still valuable team members, whether they're, you know, leaders of a team or they're the CEO of a company. Tell us a little bit about how, in your vast experience of treating people well, you know, treating people with respect, trying to keep that culture, you know, a smooth place and a psychologically safe place for people. How do we even approach the concept of a low performer?
It is one of the biggest challenges we all deal with. You know, as we've talked today, we're at best or worst hybrid. Many people work full times out of their home. Many people are back in the office, and a lot of us are in between. So like I'm in my home office today, but I have an office in a few different cities just by virtue of it. But I really spend my time on the road because I have sites in 50 different countries, and we have several hundred different sites out there, right? So it's no matter if I tried as hard as I couldn't get to them all in a year. So how do you deal with this? How do you know, right? Well, there's a combination of things, and it's rarely one simple thing. So first I'll deal with like what makes it bubble up, and then how do you deal with the individual? So if you're running your meetings and you're looking at the KPIs, it's going to be obvious what's working and what's not working. It would be wonderful to say we're all going to be A players and A plus players, whatever moniker you need or want. But it's not true, right? It takes an organization, a system to work it, and you need people in there rowing on the oar that they're entitled to. That's going to get the company forward. Some people are going to raise their hand; they're going to want more. Some people you'll trip over and see it. You know, a little side note, the thing I really worry about today is what I God, I'm old enough now. I say the young people. So the young people coming in, we used to have conversations in the hallway. We'd go out to lunch. Now I see you on Zoom, and I see you in this little window. And then a certain generation, they don't like turning their camera. I'm like, you need to be seen and heard. Get there a little early, you know, and all these things. And so it's just harder and different than when I was 25, because I did get a chance to see the CEO walking down the hall, and I could accost them if I so chose, right? So it's harder, but it doesn't mean it's not possible. It's all fit for time. So the CEO, the leader, whoever it is going to be looking at some data, dig into the root of that. The second thing is you have to create a mechanism, and this goes back to what Rayleigh was saying earlier about the one-on-ones. What's going on? All right. When I go in, I have these 3 meetings that I have when I come and take over a company. The first one is tell me about yourself. Then the second meeting, there's a whole list of questions. Second meetings is tell me about what's working in the business and what's not. And then the third one is, okay, what did we forget, right? In those meetings, I ask, who's making it happen? Who's not making it happen? Because people want to be on that winning team. You talk to 5 people, you're going to know. You're going to know who's working, who's not, and all that. It's just being in communication. So the first part I just wanted to make is, as a leader, follow your data, be on top of it, hold those one-on-ones, because that's your canary in the coal mine. This is how you're going to find something's going out, right? I travel about 65 to 70% of the time. I still don't get anywhere, but I get all that data. I read every bit of it. I'm in all those meetings, so I can follow it out, right? The second piece of it that you're going to have to deal with is, now you've identified someone. They are not working out, right? So maybe that's someone on your staff. Maybe it's someone 100 steps down below, right? So how do you deal with that individual? So It's funny. I have really changed a lot on how I think about it today. Maybe it's just because maybe I'm old and I just and I deal with different people different ways. So if you're on my staff, to be on my staff, you got to be an expert. Whatever the heck it is, you got to be good at it. In fact, you got to be better than me because, well, first of all, that's a low bar, but you got to be better than me because I'm not the horse pulling this wagon. We're all in this together. You got to do your job, and there's different roles. So I first expect you to be better than me. If you cannot do that job, and I don't know why, maybe you don't want to do the job, maybe you don't have a skill set to do the job, whatever it is, I honestly don't care, right? I'm like, okay, we have a problem. I'm going to address the problem. You will never wonder where you will never need to wait for your evaluation from me. You will get your evaluation from me every time I talk to you. There's never a mystery at all. And most of the time, given the fact that we're global, I'm talking to them just like I'm talking to you now. I'd say, Kathy, how's it going? And you say, whatever you're going to say. And then I'd say, well, look, after we got through it all, I have a couple of concerns. Now, my personality is I tend to tell stories and I like having a sense of humor and all that. But I tell people all the time, I explain this is how I work. You should tell them how you work. I say, just because I'm laughing doesn't mean I think it's funny. The second thing you have to realize is if you tell me everything you think I want, I will for sure wind up firing you because there's no way you can figure out exactly. I just want success. So don't come back and tell me you failed because you did it my way. You're going to own it. So I have four simple rules. Four simple rules. You run any company in the world, I believe, with these four simple rules. The first one is we're going to be data driven. If you have less than 20% of the information, you're guessing. If you have more than 80%, you've taken so long, everyone else has beat us. Somewhere in the middle, you're going to deal with ambiguity and you need to use your data. You're going to have to use your gut and your instinct and your experiences too, but bring the data with you. The second one is be on pace. That means not too fast, not too slow. If you're too fast, you leave your team behind, you're out by yourself, you've lost your mind. The second one, you're too slow. You're the bottleneck. You're holding everyone back. Be on the pace that's appropriate for the job you're doing. And we know what that pace is because you've already created an action plan. Remember, that was our step 4. You've already told us when you're going to get it done by. We've already agreed. You've already committed. Be on pace to hit that date, right? Third thing is no surprises. Bad news, fish and relatives all stink after 3 days. We need to know what's going on. We need to know it. We need to know it now. Sooner's better. As a leader, you can't kill them for it. Remember that. You kill them, bad culture. They won't tell you, then it's your fault. The final one is the most important by far, and that is results matter. We will not be a best effort culture. You cannot come back to me and tell me that you did this because I instructed this way, because I've already told you, you own the strategy. I told you the goal. You agreed to the goal. You told me how you're going to accomplish the goal. I expect you to go do that. Now, do I expect you to do it exactly the way you said? Of course not. Things change. But our goal is still to accomplish that. If we don't accomplish that, we don't make sales, and that means we have to lay people off and shut factories down. We are in this game to win. You don't bat 300 here and go to the Hall of Fame, you get fired. You have to be in the high completion rate because people are counting on us. So those are the 4 rules. I'm going to expect you to do that. Now, if you can't do it or you won't do it, it doesn't matter why, then we're going to talk about this about 3 times. And then I'm going to say, this job probably isn't for you. And I'm not going to give you a PIP, and I'm not going to say give you 6 months. I'm going to figure out whatever I think it is. I'm going to give you that money, and you're going to leave. And then we put someone else in. So there's no PIPs here. We don't have time for it.
I was just going to say, I love what you're saying because people are so afraid that failure means that they get this performance plan and they're going to find a way to make it work. Relly, I'm sure you want to jump in here, and Bill, I can't thank you enough for being so direct and so transparent and being so kind and creating that psychological safety while you're telling somebody this was your plan. Okay. I'm here talking to you on a regular basis, as are your management team, to try to support you on the processes that you told us you could handle. I am asking you what might have changed between the time you made that commitment and where we are now. And if you keep making me feel good and not telling me the truth about what we really need to do to make this work for you and the team and the results that are going to matter in the end, that make us a successful organization, then you have to finally give that person an opportunity to recognize that their decision-making, their flexibility, their independence, their assertiveness, their reality checking, their problem solving, their empathy for all the things that they need to be for themselves, their team, and that organization is failing them. And they have to start to recognize that, yes, maybe this job is not the right one for me. That doesn't mean there's not a better plan for them outside that organization. But I find it very interesting that many organizations cling to people for way too long, and everybody else suffers.
That's right. You know, it's not about being perfect. We fell at things. I'm telling you, the plans we've had this year, we've changed all the tariffs. We couldn't predict. It's okay, right? It's progress, not perfection. We just got to keep going, pivot, be learners, stay on top of it. Failure is, hey, I did this because I committed to this, or I spent this money because, well, guess what? Sales didn't come in, so we can't spend the money. We now need to pivot. We didn't think we were going to have tariffs. In fact, we moved product from China to India, spent a lot of money, and then India's got 50% tariff. Imagine how that's going, but that's okay, right? We just deal with that and keep going. You want people on your team that are agile enough to deal with the reality and still move forward, right? So that's what you got to have. You got to have people, you got to have that culture where winning is. But as a boss, like if you force them to lie, and I've seen it before, no, that budget's not good enough. We're going to take it up 15%. I think that's a horrible idea. Like we called our number down this year and said, this is what we're going to go do. And here's where we're going to go do it so we can be planful. Now that means we're not going to spend as much. That means we need less, right? So it's the truth and consequences that come with it. You need a team that feels empowered to go do these things.
I like truth or consequences. Relly, the
Yeah.
close is yours. We're here at the end of the show.
So we got just a couple more minutes, Bill. We're kind of picking out the right questions. And I see one of them, and especially you have behind your head there, is all about how do you quickly move from pivot from panic. And you talked about panic. You talked about the tariffs. You talked about there's plenty out there today that every business is going to panic from. So what have you learned about, what can you do tomorrow to pivot?
It comes back to the team. It comes back. So make sure people understand your tools, right? It's like a carpenter. You need how to use a hammer and a saw and all that. That's just table stakes. More importantly, make sure they understand your culture so they know when to use those tools. When they're out there and they're in some foreign land and they need to spend money, you need to make sure they're spending money the way it should be. And the way they do that is they know your culture. They know what's accepted and things like that, right? So if you want to avoid panic, or if you come in to an organization that is having trouble and it's day one, as soon as you set that goal and then you empower your team to solve the problems that's going to take to go achieve that goal, which is success, whatever success is identified, the team changes immediately because they feel like they have some control over their life.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the big difference.
And that's that sense of autonomy for sure. So let me just Kat, go through our lightning round. So let me also just emphasize you want to hear more from Bill because there's a lot there behind there that he's just scratching the surface. Bill Canady, BillCanady.com. And so our lightning round, just fill in the blank. Leadership is
figuring it out. Leadership is figuring it out and getting it done.
Okay. And at work, it's all about
the people.
And then this one's more about for yourself. So what's the best way during the work day that you recharge yourself?
I like talking to people. I like getting out there and figuring out what's going on and seeing how I can make it better, right? At the end of the day, we are all in this together, and there's nothing more exciting when you see someone get it and find a way to go do it. They feel like they're going to go home that night and share with their significant others the win they have. You want people winning every day.
I love that.
Beautiful. All right,
Well,
Kat, all
yeah,
yours.
I'm just like, I don't want this to end. This has been a fascinating, I'm looking at all these quotes, it's like every time you asked him a lightning round, leadership is truth or consequences. At work, all about, are people telling you things that you need to know? And of course, the recharge that you have to own. But I love this show. I got so much out of it. I'm sure our audience did too. And I know we don't have much time here, but we're so grateful that everybody has come together today to tune up their leadership skills. And we're so grateful. Thanks for 20 years of your support. And Bill, I don't feel so old today because I have a feeling we come from the same background, you and Relly and I. We've been around a long time and we speak from the heart. Thank you for being here with us today.
It's been a great pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Bill. We'll tune in next week to hear our next episode.